You're live.
And we're back with Joint Information Technology Oversight Committee. We had committee discussion on the agenda, and I wanted to have that discussion generally about the priorities that everyone has. Two things I want to bring up first, as I mentioned earlier, I do hope that we'll have some proposal on committee procedures. At some point, I'll work with Ledge Council on that. And if anyone has thoughts on a model that we should follow or ideas that should just be added, or if we shouldn't even do it at all, you can let me know. And I'm hoping we'll have that for the next meeting.
Yeah.
The procedures. Yeah. And the other thing was I wanted to talk about our next meeting date and what my plan for meeting is that we'll meet every month and we'll meet for an entire day, not just a morning. So before we get into further discussion, are we able to put together a date for September, or should we just have Megan do a poll after today? The scheduling discussions usually take half as long as
Probably excruciating. Mr. Chair, I would just say Mondays are really not possible for me.
Are there any other days for anyone that are just not workable?
Wednesdays are hard for me with my job, especially if Jitoc is looking to do full day meetings.
Yep. Okay, so we'll try to avoid those dates. But the rest of the discussion I wanted was just to hear from everybody on what their priorities would be for until January, what we want to focus on, what we should do. I am hoping to have all the meetings roughly sketched out, to have some sort of more or less structure to them. What that structure is, this is going to be part of that discussion. So I'll actually just ask everybody. So Rep. Sibilia, you raise your hand. So what should we be looking at?
So I'll somewhat defer to our chair in terms of how much or what, but the data privacy issues, I'd like us to hear from the administration about the SNAP issue. I reached out to them myself and, was assured that they would be providing their rationale and thinking in more detail. I haven't received that yet.
You're talking about data that the state actually has right now.
Yes. And I suggest that because I think it is, because we have such a broad, I think it is within, and also because of the level of urgency. Vermonters, I don't know that I have gotten such a negative response directed at me from so many of my constituents as I did on that. I understand their concern. So I'd like us to hear about state data. Again, though, I would like to make sure that our chair of our standing committee helps to guide that discussion.
And Senator Brock, you've discussed a lot during the.
I think I did. One of the things that I would like to go back to the beginning, make sure that there is in fact an inventory of all of the IT programs and systems that we have, and I'm hopeful that the secretary has already done that, brought it up to date. But I think that from an oversight perspective, it's something that I would like to ensure has been done, and I'd like to see it. I'd also like to know whether or not the administration has kept up with prioritizing those systems and programs, et cetera, that have raised concerns. And if they haven't, to ensure that there is a process put in place to do that. So we know in a large picture what the issues are, and not hop around on the thing that happens to either hit the newspaper or that somebody is individually worried about, without any systematic approach to ensure that we're covering the ground that we ought to. That to me is at the top of my list.
And you mentioned whether the administration's prioritizing and not us or the legislature as a whole.
No, not necessarily. Well, certainly the administration, and it's not just by the administration. I don't just mean the executive branch. I mean, do these processes exist in the three branches? Or do we have, as I suspect, at least one branch that's kind of different?
Well, we have the constitutional offices as well.
That's correct. That's correct. And I think we should, if we're an oversight committee, we have to know what we're overseeing. And unless we have an inventory, we don't have a clue. And that's not necessarily a small task that isn't being done the way it is. And then if we do make that identification, then the next question I'm going to have is who's checking and verifying that it's complete and something is not missing, or that the process is such that we have some assurance will be complete. So that's the first thing on my list. The second thing on my list is to have a conversation with the state auditor to determine to what extent our independent auditors who do the annual audit are including information technology in that audit, and what has it consisted of in the last year. In other words, what are the touch points, and what is the process of ensuring that information technology audit is being actually done and being done in a comprehensive way.
Last year, or was it last year or the year before that Tim Ash testified before this committee?
Who did?
Tim Ash, the deputy.
Probably a year ago, I would suspect, yeah.
Do you recall if that was?
It did not cover that. It
Did not cover
completely, not as completely as I would like to see.
Gotcha.
We haven't actually gone back to the whole issue of, is there in fact an inventory maintained, and how is it maintained, how is it updated, and how is it prioritized in terms of what are the risks, if you will, in a logical order that hasn't been done in several years.
Okay. Great. And Rep. James?
Yeah, so in terms of priorities for this panel, a lot of my stuff I think is related to each other. They're all related topics, but I'd really love to make sure that we're on top of how the ADS dashboard and their public reporting processes are moving along. We took a lot of testimony from ADS about this, and obviously moved that into a bill. And so we're expecting to see a greatly improved public dashboard and a beefed up annual report that's delivered to us. That's going to provide a rundown of all of the IT modernization projects that ADS oversees. And so I would just love to check in and see how that's going. I know the dashboard, I think, has already been improved, and we're expected to get a better report from them in December than we've seen in years past. And that bill that we all worked on was the result of some of the work that the auditor had done, and JFO was closely involved too. So I want to make sure that we just get a look at how that work is going. And I'm not sure how that differs, Senator Brock, from the kind of inventory you're requesting. Maybe a lot of that work is already underway. So continuing to track all of our IT modernization projects, I'd say my top priority. We took a lot of testimony in our committee at the end of the session on the sharing and also the sale of data, Vermonters' data by state government. And we never really brought that issue home to land. It didn't feel like to me. We didn't get a bill passed, and we didn't get a written report requested. So I'd like to check in with ADS and with some state agencies on the sale and sharing of Vermonters' data. And if time permits, how we fund our IT projects is a topic that's of perpetual interest to me. It seems to me that we fund these projects sort of on an ad hoc or one-time basis when they come up. A request comes in for funding to the legislature. We take testimony, we debate, we appropriate the money or not. And I'd love to see if there would be some more systematic way that we could be putting money aside every year into the state IT modernization fund. So basically, we're saving up for this over time. Those are kind of my priorities. And also just a small logistical request. I always appreciate written testimony in advance that we can post on our website and that Vermonters can see. I think it's just easier for folks than having to go back and watch a live stream meeting.
Yeah,
That's
and
it for
Kath,
me.
yeah, Kath, thank you for bringing that back up. My plan is for every invitation to also request that they send us written testimony as well as any documentation well before the meeting, so that the meeting might be more of a discussion that we have information for before. So hopefully that works. And Senator Weeks, and I should say, you don't necessarily have to have any sort of priorities. I gave you my kind of two, but if you have any, let us know.
I do. Thank you, Rob. So my primary concern is the relationship with the committees of jurisdiction. We have the benefit of having Representative James with us, but Senator Harrison from Senate Institutions, I'd like to propose that we offer some time to both Representative James and Senator Harrison about from the perspective of the committees of jurisdiction, what are the expectations that they have of Jitoc, and what are the handoffs that they would expect come December, January, where we transition back to the committees of jurisdiction. I think that conversation, 10, 15 minutes of each of Representative James and Senator Harrison's perspectives might be valuable to us. And that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And one of the things that I had been sort of batting around was when we were going to have the discussion on sort of the importance or need for this committee anymore. And we can have that, we can start that at the beginning and then maybe towards December, see how it goes. And Rep. Priestley.
You see me for last because I have the list, right? Yeah. I mean, I guess definitely the community jurisdiction piece. I'm just curious also, like most states, I feel like that are looking forward into AI and privacy issues are establishing dedicated digital committees, just because all of our entire world is like now any software solution is touching all of our systems. We even started seeing it this year where like the healthcare committee would start doing privacy issues or AI issues and medical records, but wouldn't necessarily be checking in with any one committee that tended to focus on the technical issues. So I'm just curious if Jitoc might also just evaluate if it makes sense to have dedicated committees that all of the committees would have a central place to check in with when it comes to like tech. When it comes to, I totally agree with the data privacy piece. I'm curious, in addition to Senator Brock's kind of classification and outlines of all of the IT systems and software in place, I'm also just curious, again, checking with other states, like I'm assuming we must have a data classification and governance plan that ADS is following, but I would love to know if that's true, if there is one, and if they're following it, and then because I don't see how we can do any of the kind of really deep dives of reports of data privacy, sale of or sharing of data, or the federal-state relationship unless the legislature also has some idea of the actual, like, where all the data is, what we collect, who we're giving it to. And I don't see how they could do that if they haven't done some kind of data governance process. Cybersecurity is just one I feel like we don't really dive in any committee. And I feel like sometimes when I'm at conferences, we're getting behind on that and just would love an update. The AI procurement one is a big one for me too. Even if states haven't started doing AI in the kind of private consumer space, they are definitely diving into the AI procurement piece for software solutions. Then I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, and then that hearing from all the business managers, just about, I mean, even when we just had BGS and the ERP, there was a mention of the Vermont buys using the Vision, but then in the previous presentation, we'd heard that Vision will be replaced by the ERP system. So now I'm curious, if they're doing all this work in VT buys and then they're switching systems, how are they feeling about that?
Okay, great.
The issue you raise of governance is particularly important. And when you have three separate branches of government, each of which
Right.
operates
Good point.
independently, we may have at least one branch that tells the other branches to go pound sand.
Totally.
That it's none of your business. One of the best ways to deal with that, at least in my experience, has been to expose it loudly. You hate to necessarily do that, but I do have concerns that we're losing some branches and they're doing some things independently that may put the state at risk.
Good point. Yeah.
And one thing that you mentioned, exposing it, and needing to do that, and this might be a discussion with the committee chairs, but we're an oversight committee, so we should be doing that. And, the policy committees can perhaps work more closely in collaboration where we can literally be more of we're going to ask you questions and we're going to ask the hard questions.
Well, asking questions is one of the ways to expose it.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, does anyone have anything else? Seeing nothing, I think we will call it a day. Thank you all very much.
When you want to talk about meeting times, you want to do that remotely?
We'll do that through Megan to schedule. Cool.